Okay. All right. We're going to try this again. Technology, man. I just don't get it. That thing was just like complicated. This is our second run at the same video right now. All right. So, welcome to the Car Man's channel. If you're getting a chance to tune in now, or if this is on repeat or replay, we're going to be about top 16 car buying mistakes. Our channel is definitely designed around trying to help people out, further them along in whatever they're needing. And it's an open forum. As long as we're broadcasting live, feel free to just hit up the comment page and just let her rip. Even if it's unrelated to the comments, I'll try to get to it and work it out, which is completely cool. Also, anything we're talking about will be listed in our descriptions, as well as our very cool, check it out, Devil, check it out, our Amazon affiliate store, which is super cool. That will be down in the links below. All right, so we were just talking about the top 10 car buying mistakes, and now I'm sorry, top 16. I started at top 10, ended up at 16. And but I had to switch cameras because it was just crashing on my end. I don't even know if I was still broadcasting, but I had to kill it. But I know this one will work. All right. So the first thing I told everybody a second ago was don't procrastinate. That was I'm just going to have to review this real quick. Don't procrastinate. And basically, if you see a deal in a nutshell, go get it. Period. In the story. Don't wait for your wife to just get in the car, go get it. That's what you do. The second thing that we were talking about was don't make an offer over the phone. You never make an offer over the phone because what happens is, what I was just saying, is people will you're going to be one like the other 25 phone calls they're getting. And so they're going to be like, well, gosh, she doesn't even want to give me what I want. And you already know it's a good deal. That's why you're calling. And you know that there's some desirability. So I'm telling you, don't be lazy. Don't make them a phone. Don't make a phone call because if you say, "Hey, well, will you take $1,000 instead of 1,500?" The next guy says, "Hey, would you take 1,200 before you get there?" Guess what? You're out of the game. Period. They're going to cut you out quicker than you can say. There's no such thing as obligation or feeling guilty. They do not feel guilty for you. If you're too lazy to um, not get on it and then turn around, and if you don't have enough in you to get off your butt and go out there and make an offer, you're probably going to lose the deal. That's just how it is. And if anybody was a buyer for me and I caught them making offers over the phone, they would be fired immediately. I would not tolerate that for 1 second because it is like it's one of the cardinal sins. You don't do it. Um, all right, well that's pretty self-explanatory. All right, so not only that, you got to be able to get on the list. This is the number 3 slot I'm talking about. You have to be. Don't take the number. Hey, I've got 4 people interested, and they're all sitting in line ready to do this, do that. No, 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 no. Cut it, cut it, cut it. You've got to get in there, and you've got to be the first one on the list. So how do you do that? Well, unless you're just the sweetest talking person on the planet, which most of us aren't, the only way you can do it is talk to them in a language that everyone understands, which is dollars and cents. Say, hey, if I was willing to pay you a little more than what you're offering for it, could I come take a look at it? And do you know what most people are going to say? Guess what most people are going to say? Yeah, if you want to offer me a little more, you darn right you can come. Does that mean you have to offer them more? I would if it was nice, it was there. If it could stay another 50 or 100 bucks, I would, just to get that opportunity. If it's not, it's just a normal car deal when you get there. If you get there and they want a couple $100 too much, and you can come to a deal. Most people are cool. You can be like, hey, all right, I feel you, but you got to get there in front of them. You got to get that happening. What most people do is first they're lazy as hell. They won't get off the phone or they won't get off their butt and go look at the car. Then secondly, they want to make an offer over the phone because they're too lazy to turn around and actually go there and make an offer in person. And then you have to be innovative. You have to, like I said, you have to be willing to offer them a little more. You got to bring something to the game that's going to make them want to do business with you. Period. End of story. There's no other way around it. That's how it works. All right. Don't mean to beat y'all up on that one. When you get there, I see this all the time. Don't insult the car. Don't be like, don't look down on the car. Don't look down on the person. Be pleasant. Don't even address the car. You address the person that was nice enough to let you come there and look at it. Don't start addressing the car right off the bat. You address the individual that is there. Hey, sir. Hey, ma'am. Thank you for letting me come by and look. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I guess this is the car. Can we check it out? They're going to give you permission and they're going to say yes, which is the first basis to our sale. We've got them saying yes. Yes, yes, yes. Will you take less? Yes, yes, yes. Yes is the name of the game. Um, no, don't address the car at all. Do not address the car at all. You address the individual first. You have to build credibility and you've got to build a personal relationship. The car is an object. The person sitting there is the person making the decision. The car has no feelings. No matter what you think about the car, it is not going to be any bearing or factor into the deal. All they're going to do, if you touch something wrong with the car, you're going to piss them off. They're going to be like, well, I can't wait for this asshole to be gone so I can move to the next one. That's exactly how it works. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Trust me on this. I've been doing this a long time. You want to curtail to the person standing there. That is the most important thing you can do. The car is no longer relevant. The thing that's relevant is how you can establish this person needs to feel comfortable with you. He needs to think you're a fair guy. He needs to think you're a straight shooter, and he needs to think you're all about business. And he also needs to know you got some character. So when you go up, look them in the eye, shake their hand, they're going to know that, hey, this is a pretty good guy. Think about it, Nathan. You're selling your 300ZX. I don't even know if you have a 300ZX, but whatever. Guy walks up, it's got bad paint on the hood. You love this car. You've been driving this car for 10 years. There's so many wonderful things about this car and memories you got. And the first person that shows up, he hasn't got two words to say to you. Then he walks up and he puts his hand right on the hood where the bad spot's at. You're going to be like, you beep, 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 asshole. That's what you're going to think. You're going to be like, I don't even want to sell the car. And that's what people do. If you find a reason to insult their car or them, they're going to find a reason to turn you off because they're always going to be able to justify whatever's wrong with the car. Remember that. Just because it's wrong with it doesn't mean they think anything's wrong with it. So most people don't have a conscience on, hey, well, it's got bad paint, so I should. No, they already have established what they want for the car in their brain and they're willing to play the game a little bit. So you need to make yourself seem at least a little vulnerable. That I guess that's the word I'm looking for. All right. Okay. Don't take second place on the list. Don't insult this seller on appearance. Okay. Now moving into the car. So before I ever get started on cars, I have this little checklist in my brain I do. And the reason is because if I don't, I'm going to forget it. And if you forget any of these things, this is going to burn you so hard that you will not believe how stupid you will feel. But don't even start the car. Pop the hood. Let's take a look. It doesn't matter. The rest of the car doesn't even matter. Let's just pop the hood. Make sure you do this. Pop the hood. We're checking the brake fluid. This is all under one. This is just number 5 or whatever. But you want to pop the hood. You want to check the brake fluid. Number 1, always go to the brake fluid first because it starts at the driver's side. Look for it to be low. If it's low, what does that mean? That means you got you got a leak somewhere going on, whether it's a caliper or a line, whatever. Even if it's minor, it's something you're going to have to fix down the road. There's no reason for brake fluid just to be low. So let's just throw that out there. All right. Then check the power steering fluid. Okay. And the reason we want to check the power steering fluid is, once again, yeah, check it all cold. Absolutely. You want to see what you just want to see it initially. You just want to see what you got. So check the power steering fluid. And the reason I say check the power steering fluid, they have a cold and a hot spot on those. I think power steering fluid actually expands the warmer it gets. But anyway, that's why there's two different things. All right, but check it. And the reason is because if it's low, then you're like, hey, I have a power steering leak. Do I have a power steering pump issue? Do I have a line issue? Or do I have a rack and pinion issue? See, a rack and pinion is a lot different than a power steering pump, and a line's a lot different than a power steering pump. So you could be that one little test right there, and the car might sound just fine because it's just a little low, but it's going to be cause for you to say, hey, I need to be paying attention, or I might be spending $400 on a rack and pinion system like real quick. And then proceed forward just like clockwork. Pop open the oil. Of course, you're looking for the oil cap. You're looking underneath it. Throw it in the sunlight. Look for anything that looks a little funky. sometimes you get condensation under the cap if it hasn't been done. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad head gasket or nothing. But if you see a lot of white slushy under there, pay close attention. Then check the oil level, and when you pull it out, flip it to the sunlight and look for metal fragments inside that oil. I do it every car because if we've got something grinding in there from tensioners or whatever, and I see the metal, I know what I'm listening for, and it's going to completely change the variation on what I may or may not offer for this car based on how deep I want to get. See, that's the test you can't study for, is what's in that oil. All right, then I want to go straight to the radiator cap. Pull the radiator cap ice cold, and let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking, once again, I flip that cap straight into the sun. If I see anything metallic in it, guess what that means? They put some kind of stop leak in it for a head gasket, or they put something in it for a radiator leak, whatever. We got cooling issues and cooling problems. Period. End of story. If in fact you have a car that you have any suspect for overheating, one of the things I'm going to do a video on this actually of the things you need to take with you to buy a car. One of those things you need to take with you is the dye. You just drop couple drops into some of the fluid, and if it turns a color, that means it's got exhaust gas present and it's got a blown head gasket. See, as car people, we try to justify stuff. We'll be like, "Oh, it just needs a water pump." BS. It does not need a water pump. It probably has a freaking cracked head or a blown gasket, one or the other. It's going to be a major job, and we want the people to sell us. So you know what I mean? Like, we're not paying that close attention because we're greedy and we want the car and we want to flip it. But you definitely, if you see any signs for overheating, this is what you want to do. All right. So then that's the top part of the engine. Take your little flashlight, go right up underneath it. Look right underneath the transmission right there. We're looking for wetness. That's the rear main seal. And then look at that flashlight and look around to the front where the crank's at. If it's wet there, that's a front main seal. You'll see the oil sending unit if you can see any of that stuff. Anyway, you're trying to look for any major oil leaks going on. The rear main seal being the big one. That's the one I'm talking about. Because why is that a big deal? You have to pull the transmission to switch out a $3 gasket. And guess what? It ain't getting any better. So the only way to fix it is to fix it. Period. Well, I guess you could put some of that Lucas in it. So I have seen that work actually. It actually worked pretty impressive on an old Bronco I had. But no guarantees on that. So we definitely want to. So we want to check the top, starting at the brake. Move yourself around, end up with the oil, and then into the radiator cap. Checking everything under the sunlight, looking for metal. Go underneath it, and where the engine marries the transmission. That's our first major thing. Of course, you can take a look down there too. I mean, obviously, if there's chunks of stuff missing and the oil pan's dented, we obviously know that we have more issues to be concerned with. But I'm assuming that's a decent car, and that's not really the issue. That's right. That's exactly right. This is exactly why I'm making this video, Nathan, because it's not just you, my brother. It's everybody. We all get excited. And this before I had to understand all this stuff before you could really be profitable. Because if you don't, what happens is we're a victim of our own arrogance. We think we know everything. So because we don't follow procedure and go through a checklist and make sure that we got everything that we're supposed to do. Now, this doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process by any means, guys. It needs to seem almost seamless to the guy that's standing there, the one that's selling you the car. But yeah, I'm just checking a few things. Don't tell them what you're doing. Just kind of do the flippy flip, At this point, if you see anything that's odd, this is when you mention it to your customer because you're just finding out about it, and he is too. He probably already knows, but it's not insulting then because you're doing something. You're an investigation, and long story short, he gets it. So you can be like, "Oh, I see a little bit of condensation under the oil cap. Hey, I noticed the power steering's a little low. Well, that's probably just a leak. We'll take a look at that." That sort of thing. You're still in the game, but he knows you're not a dumbass. So he knows that you're there and you're being serious. All right, moving past that. That's under the hood. That's what we do on that. Now, once I'm done with the hood, the very next thing I do, I don't even mess with the car. I go right to the rear of the car, climb underneath it with a flashlight, and I look down the rocker panels and I look down on the inside of the frame. Why? Because if this car is rotted out from the back, it's not going to pass inspection, and everybody's going to be pissed when you sell it to them. Nobody wants a rusted out car. So you have to get under there and you got to look under there with a light and just make sure that you don't see like holes through the floor pans going back up to the. I mean, you can get a really rusted out piece of junk with no problem quick. That's why I go from the engine, then I look under the car because those are the two deal breakers for me. Boom, boom. Okay, if it's past those two, and then the next thing I'm into, I get into inside the car, and before I get anywhere with the car, just because I make myself do it, I number one, I'm going to plug a scanner in, but we'll get that in a second. Turn the car in the on position, and you got to do a power check, dude. We got to check the mirrors, we got to check the locks, we got to check the windows. Why? Why is it important that all these little things get checked? Because each one of them is money. Yeah, you're lucky about Arizona, no rust. But the everything costs money, like the power windows, dude, that's gonna run you 50, $80 a pop. A locking mechanism, who knows what you'll get into. The door handles, that's another pain in the butt. And then you start the car up and get the AC, check the AC, check the heat. You just want to do an electrical check. We're not checking about whether the car runs good or not. We just want to check the electricals in the car. Check the seat. Everything to do with electricals, you should be able to do this in moments. It should be like you just flip, 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 flip. Boom, boom. You're in, you're out. The radio's working great. The blower came on great. AC's on or off. The heater, definitely check the heater. Matter of fact, during this particular point in time, never buy a car that you haven't checked the heater on, and I'll tell you why. If you ever check the heater on a car and it doesn't blow heat, that's because generally speaking, there's air in the line, and doesn't necessarily always mean it, but there's a good possibility you're dealing with a blown head gasket or a serious coolant breach somewhere. That's big money. If a car gets warm, then hot, then cool, then hot, then cool, that could cost you big money. So always check the heater. The heater is a lot more important than the AC. Although the AC is important, but the heater means internal motor problems. Always check your heater. So don't take, matter of fact, we'll make that 17 because I didn't even think about checking the heater, but that's one thing you got to do. All right. So this is where I put my scan tool in. Now, people are like, well, I don't have a scanner. All right. Well, if you're going to buy cars, go get you a live data scanner for $100. I don't care where you get it from. You can on our Amazon, just go right there. I'll have there's a link for it in my Amazon store right here. Just get you one, plug the thing up, look at live data. Live data is going to tell you what the temperature of the car is running, which is very important. Also, it's going to tell you if something else isn't working, like the MAF sensor, O2 sensors, whatever those check engine lights are. It's going to kind of tell you what's going on. Yeah, wet carpets is another big deal. But the O2 sensor, whatever those sensors are, whatever you're having problems with the censorship or any kind of sensors on them, you're going to get a notification on it. And why is that important? Because that gives you leverage. Like if you know that you have a bad MAF sensor and a car's running rough, that no one else knows that, but you know it because you have the information there, then you know that car's going to cost you $60, but you have one killer negotiating tool. This scan tool is going to make your money back day one. Buy it. You're done. Like it's part of it. Like if you're going to get groceries this week, add the scan tool to it. Go right to the bottom here and order it. Because you need it. It's just part of it. Because now I'm gonna plug the scan tool in. It's going to be monitoring the temperature. Now I'm taking it for a test drive. I always every test drive I take, I did a whole series on how to buy a used car, but things I'm looking out for. But specifically on the test drive, I'm bringing this thing up to interstate speed. I'm also stopping it, and I'm also doing hard left turns and hard right turns to check the CV axles, things like that. And I'm also checking reverse. But never buy a car without taking a test drive. Period. End story. But you're not gonna believe this, but I can't tell you how many times I bought cars. I'm just like in a hurry, and I buy them for. I turn around and buy them for like whatever. I'm getting a good deal. I'm like, yeah, just whatever. Just put it on the truck. Dude, that is so arrogant and so stupid. And every time I do it, there's something about that car that I didn't would have known immediately if had I drove it, and I'm just a dumbass for not driving it. So don't do that. Like, be cautious that you are not God and that you actually can be buying a piece of junk. Um, if you are cautious and you know like you're going to take the time to ride and drive that car, you're in a much better leverage position because if you really want it, you know you can make money on it because you know the car drives good. okay? If you don't drive it, there's always that if. So you may think you got a good deal, you didn't get crap. Because if you bought a car with a bad transmission, bye bye, you're done. Or if you get one that has got the herky jerks when you're like between 40 and 50 from a bad I don't know, some bad sensor or something going on, some kind of electrical problem. Um, so a lot of cars, if you don't take them up to heat and they got bad coils, you won't know it until the coils get bad and start shorting out. And then when the car cools down, it acts fine again. Or crank sensor. There's so many things that can be going on that you're not going to know without that scanner and that test drive. Please, for the love of God, take a test drive, kids. All right. I'm catching up with you right here. Okay. Mr. Jinright, get an Elm 327. $3 for Blue Driver Scanner 99. Okay, yeah. So I'll put that in my store so you guys can find that thing. Connect to your phone via an app. Yeah, so the light bulb removal, that the wet carpets and the light bulb, these are kind of like off topic, but yeah, they definitely are. So wet carpets is always a given. And then same thing with the check for the light bulb remove. What he's actually talking about is your check engine light. But if you've got a scanner, it doesn't matter. But all you got to do is when you turn the key in the on position, first thing you should look for is the check engine light, the brake light, ABS light, whatever. And if any of those lights don't show up there, there's a reason somebody took them out. He's absolutely spot on. All right, now, okay. Never buy a car without its book value. Ever. I can't tell you how many times I bought a car. I always win on them at some point, usually. But I buy cars just based on the sheer volume of cars I've bought in my life. I just have a gut feeling what they're worth, regardless of what the book says. But sometimes I'm very surprised what the book actually says. And sometimes I might think a car is worth $1,000 and the book, I'm sorry, I might think it's worth 1,000. I'm going to retail it back out for $2,000 or 2,200. And I look at the book and the lowest book value on it's like $3,000. So I might pick up 200 or 300 by knowing that book value. Of course, if you're new, you may pay too much, but people that's been buying cars for a while we're guilty of not paying enough. That's all we're going to be guilty of. But we need to sell them for the right amount of money, which is why when you buy the car, you need to have the Kelly Blue Book or whatever you're going to utilize for your area. You need to kind of have a real good guide. I kind of look at fair. If I look at private value fair, if I look at private value fair, and I'm at least $1,000 back of that, 1,200 back of that, I think you've got a car deal there. Now that doesn't always apply. If it's nice car, of course I don't care what the fair book value says. But I'm just kind of giving you a rough estimate. Now, I'm going to tell you something else that's going to make you a killer bunch of money or cost you a killer bunch of money if you don't take the time to do it. I'll put the link on my thing here for Carfax. I think I'm getting ready to be an affiliate for them anyway. But so why is Carfax isn't really so much for us about finding out what's wrong with the car now, is it? Because most times if it's in the Carfax and it got hit, it probably went to a licensed shop and it probably got fixed correctly. So the car is probably 9 times out of 10 pretty safe. But it's a mental thing. So if you actually have it right here on my phone, if I go with any car right now, I can be pulling up to it 30 seconds later. I've got the VIN number in it. I've already got it. I got a printer in my truck. I got the Carfax. I got the Carfax immediately. Do I have the Carfax because I'm scared of how many owners it had? Or no, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is what I can use for leverage. So I'm looking at it. And of course, I want to know if it's been teetotal or something like that. But I'm looking for anything for leverage. So if I look at this thing and this car says, oh man, it's got all the factory records like at the dealership. Okay. That means this car is valuable. So I'm pulling the Carfax right now. So if I buy this car, this is going to go on when I sell it. This is going to build value when I sell it because people automatically know the name Carfax. It has a Carfax. And that's all they care about. People don't even understand Carfaxes, but they're sold on the idea that they need a Carfax, if that makes sense to you. Now, the seller is not anticipating you breaking out your own Carfax. I promise you. So you can break out a Carfax, and if it says it's been involved in a collision and don't put a dollar amount on it, then you're looking at the guy and he's going to be like, hey, man, he's going to be like, hey, guys, I didn't know that. This happened before I owned it. Okay, that's cool, man. Now we know the car's been fixed. You've already drove it. I mean, don't be a wuss about it. I mean, you got to stand up and mule out if you go buy. If you're gonna step up and swing and buy a car, but this is how you get a deal. That's why I'm saying don't not pull a Carfax, because a Carfax will sell and close the deal for you quicker than I've closed more deals with a Carfax than any 10 people you ever met in your life. Because you use that Carfax and you say, hey, look, man, um, I, this isn't me, this isn't you, this is just a history of the car. Looking at this, I know you wanted $2,000, but I'm just kind of looking at this. I'm kind of feeling 12, 1400, whatever you're feeling. You're going to get an idea. Hey, what's up, Buff? You're going to get a feel for what you want to do. But don't not have Carfax, because you can pay a monthly fee. If you're going to do this for a living, it's just like the scanner. You got to have it. You got to have the Carfax. You got to have Kelly Blue Book on your phone. Those are two things you don't need to live without, period, in a day, in a story. I don't care who you are or how good you think you are. Those are some things you need. And like I said, you're always planning for the end game. So by pulling the Carfax, and then 3 weeks later when the car comes up for sale, guess what? You already got the Carfax, and the same Carfax that you used to get a good deal. Because you have a Carfax, you can get more money even if there is damage on it. Be like, hey, this is the history of it. It got fixed at a reputable place. It'll give you the name of it usually, or tell you what it was. And it's been, here's a service record from the dealer since then. So this car is all good, and people will feel comfortable because you're being transparent. Carfax gives you immediate credibility. I don't know why everybody doesn't jump on the Carfax train. I did years ago, and I never got off of it. I'm addicted. I love the place. I love the app, or whatever you call it. Back then, it was a website. I guess it's an app now. All right. We already talked about the scan tool because I had to bump that up to number 6. Okay. Another thing that you never do is devalue your own time. So if you know you got a car that is just going to need some work, and you know that you're going to have to spend some time, I don't care if it's just nasty on the inside or if it's just funky, or it's all beat, whatever your case is that you got to put in it, don't devalue your time, because that's a big mistake. You got to figure out, what is your time worth? Hey, look, I want to work. It's worth $50 an hour. Whatever your hourly rate is that you're going to have to put in it. If you had to go buy a car for, let's say, $1,000, and you have to turn around and you have to put in 40 hours of work and then turn around and sell it for 1,500, come on, guys, that doesn't make sense. So if sometimes a piece of junk is a piece of junk and it needs to just sit there, even though you could make a few $100s on it, if it's too much work, it's too much work. Identify it, call it what it is, and walk away. That's what I say. So never undervalue your own time. Put a premium on your time, because it is worth something. Because the same amount of time and the same amount of money you're wasting on that car, you could be putting in something else that will actually make you money. I know it's hard because you want to jump out there and you want to buy one and you want to flip it, but sometimes you gotta hold yourself in. You gotta pull yourself back so you can win the big picture. I know it's hard, but trust me, I guess how I know that lesson. All right. All right. The next thing you want to do, don't want to do, is not have a clean title or a bill of sale. Those are two non-qualifiers for me. And even though I've gotten pretty lucky in the past, I have bought some cars without titles that were at the title loan place, and then went them at the title loan place and paid for them. But it seems like every time that, if you have a friend or something and they're wanting a car to sell you a car, even though you know them, it's just a good practice to make sure they have the title, because people they become uninterested in carrying what you need once they have the money. That's just the best way to put it. And you're doing this for a business, so you can't really live without a title. You can't live without all this stuff. You have to have it. And by getting a bill of sale with every car you buy, just in case, it takes 5 minutes. Don't have to be much to it. Um, you can print you or whatever. But just in case there was something down the line that was hairy about that car, because something can happen. It could be like ex-boyfriend stole it and sold it. Ex-girlfriend bought it and sold it. This person wasn't allowed to sell. I mean, who knows what the story will be? They had a lien on it that you didn't know. Whatever the case is, you don't want the sheriff's department showing up at your place and being like, why is this stolen car here? Well, sir, I don't know that it's stolen, but I do have a bill of sale and a clear title for this car. Because if you have a title, that's one thing, but if you got a bill of sale, it's another. Because a bill of sale is going to transfer the blame. So even if the guy gives you a BS bill of sale, it's still him that committed whatever crime. It's not you. So that's a whole cover your butt deal. So don't ever buy a car that you don't get those two things on. And I think the last thing I'm going to touch base on you guys is if you are dealing with major parts, this has burned me so many times in the past. I'll give you an example. If you're buying one, because there's nothing wrong with buying something that needs a transmission, or even if it needs an engine, if that's what you do, if that's your niche and that's what you do, that's good. But always make sure you got them parts on hold somewhere before you pull the trigger on the car. Because a lot of times I have been really surprised at how stupid expensive some things are that I just assumed wouldn't be very much at all. So that's give you an example, like the Expedition engine I talked about in a video not too long ago. Even though it's a couple years back, but I had to buy that engine. That was an expensive engine, man. That was like $1,000 plus, and then I had to buy another one. And usually I'm thinking of an engine, I might be 300 or 400, maybe 500 or 600, if I'm in a real good mood. But I mean, so you got to be careful. And then some really rare transmissions that blow up all the time, it's hard to find a good one. So when they do have a good one, they charge all the money for them, like on a Mazda. So we think a transmission should cost 200 or 300, and they're going to give you the transmission, except the transmission's going to be 1,500, even used, because they know it's good. Anyway, so that's my theories for today, kids. That's my top 16. I might have turned that into 17 or possibly 18 theories on top mistakes not to make. All right, let's see what everybody's got going on. I buy it below Kelly BB trade. Isn't that a good gauge to work with in your opinion? If I estimate repair, say 200, I deduct that from the offer. Is that a good idea? Well, Buff, it's really hard to be in what level of KBB trade you talking? Are you talking like fair trade-in value, good trade-in value, or I wait for him to kick back in? Hey, what's up, Windy City? I'm assuming he's talking about fair trade-in value. I mean, because obviously he's a man. He's trying to make a fair. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So he's trying to go in fair. That might be hitting him a little hard. It all depends on your market. I kind of gauge it. I guess you know what? That probably might become close to what I do anyway, but I might do it a little different way. So I look at private seller because that's all that matters to me is private seller, and I think the fair is so ridiculously low sometimes that most people would just their mouths would just open. There'll be like $150 value or something on a car that's running and driving, which is really hard to pull off. But I look at just going below the fair on the private market because that kind of gives the person a little bit of a fair deal. Yeah, I bet you never have lost money. Hey, man, I might be learning something there. It all depends on your market. So if you're in a market where that can happen and you got plenty of supply, then I would stay with it. You're definitely, like you said, you're not getting hurt. That means you can, even on a bad day, you can advance yourself back up $500 or $1,000, even if it's a total piece of crap because you bought it so cheap. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, ain't no problem there, my man. Hey, that's what we need. We need Autobuff showing us how to buy some cars. Dang. Although I am the king of cheap too. I like sometimes I don't even look at the book because I'm just gonna buy it so cheap to start with. It doesn't even matter. Like the book doesn't even come into play. Like I'm sure he does too. He probably looks at some cars and is like, I don't care what the book says. I'm only going to pay $300 or $500 for it. I don't care. Book can be like $1,500, but he already knows the car. He knows he ain't even going to be able to retail it for $1,200, so it doesn't even matter what the book says. That's just kind of a gauge for everybody. But once you get into this and you really start learning, you use it as a guide, but not as a. It's not an absolute. Yeah, so yeah, you definitely. That's how I am on cars, man. I just look at them, I'm just like the $100 Escape that I've been doing a project on for the last couple weeks, as I get time. It doesn't even matter about that car. Like I just wasn't going to pay more than $100 for it. It's a 2002 or 3 or whatever, 4-wheel drive, runs good, but yeah. So it is the will. Yeah, it's the will to walk away. I ain't got it. Yes. Now, Big Cliff, we're not talking about women right here, right? We're talking about cars. We better shut up. He'll get in trouble with his wife. So look, yeah. So it is just a gauge. It's just like how you feel. Like, it's just a feeling. I'll give you an example. So if you went to buy, let's just say a can of Coke. We're all on the same page, right? Just a 12 ounce, as a 12-ounce can of Coke. Yeah, wrong channel. Yes, Cliff, wrong channel. Um, okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. We'll all get kicked off of Craig, whatever. So let me give you an example. It's called the Coke can theory. This is what I was taught when I was really young. So a Coke can full of Coke in a refrigerator is worth what? Some of you are going to say, "Hey, I would pay 50 cents for it um, at a vending machine, right?" So 50 cent value on a Coke can. Is that fair? And then some of us have been to other vendors and we've seen it in the machine. We're not happy about it, but I was at the skate place because Jen's doing her training, and they had Coca Colas and Sprites, but they were 2.50 a pop. Now, does that mean that it was worth 250? No, it was not worth 250. It was only 250. I did step up and pay 250 because I needed it right then. And people are just like that with cars. Sometimes they'll pay a little more if they need it and it's nice, but it doesn't change the value that I overpaid. No matter if I like the Coke, no matter how it feels, it is what it is. A 50-cent Coke is a 50-cent Coke, no matter if you're in an airport or if you're in a grocery store. That's what it is. So the Coke can value never changes, and neither do cars. Cars are only worth what they're worth. Sometimes we're forced to pay a little more because um, the person's in love with it, the situation, we need the car. Um, oh, yeah. See, where he's at, yeah, exactly right, Buck. Because you're in New York and he's in upstate New York, so yeah, Rust is a big deal there. I mean, so he's not going to be that. He's not going to be that inclined to fall in love with anything that's got rust on. I promise you. I've never even seen his operation, but I can guarantee you right now, if we went to his lot and I said, "Hey, I want to sell you this, whatever it is. The only problem is it's 8 up. There's no rocker panels that are 8 up." He's going to be like, "I don't care. It's $100 car. Promise you." Um, so that's so some things overweigh the book value too. Like that rust is a big deal. I mean, we're only when we're talking about cars right now, but if we're only talking about ones that are resellable that pass the criteria that you'd want to keep in inventory and sell. That's what kind of we're all talking about. But yeah, the Coke can theory, man, it never changes. It always the same. It will never change. A Coke can is worth 50 cents no matter where, when, or how. That's how it works. So if you can buy that Coke can for 20 cents somewhere, you got yourself a 30-cent profit. If I buy it for 75 cents and I want to sell it, it's only still worth 50 cents. Just because I overpaid for it doesn't change its value. And that's how cars work. The secret to cars is knowing their value and preparation, which is what this whole video was about. Yeah, so Chicago's a little different story. So people don't want to limit. And you know what? That rings true everywhere. And how we protect our consumers in the end, like we're talking about, if you follow the 16 steps I just gave you, I mean, I'm sure a lot of y'all do it anyway, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find the lemons here. You know what I mean? We're trying to set you up for a good price. We're trying to make sure you don't have electrical problems. Make sure there's nothing going on in that engine. Make sure the test drive goes good. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, all we really want to do, we just want to buy a car, bring it home, rinse it off, and resell it. That's like heaven to me. That's where I want to be. Is anybody else on the same page? That's where I want to be. Or if I'm an individual looking to buy a car, I'm looking to drive it home, put gas in it, and go put my tags on it and drive it down the road. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want a car that I can get on and drive and be done. And that's the end of the story. None of us really want the projects and everybody else's junk. But the problem is to get a good deal, we have to deal with it. So in our society, there's that market of people that don't wash their cars and don't take care of them. And hopefully they haven't tore it up so bad that we can actually bring it back to nice. And that's kind of where we live. We live on that like a little thrush of I don't know, not quite junk, but not quite really nice. And we got to take it from junk and we got to move it back up to nice. And that's where the profit's at. That's how we make a living. That's how I feel it anyway. All right, guys, what else is going on? Enough about cars. What is this, a car channel or something? What's that car channel? I like Cliff's idea. Cliff, what kind of channel do you think you want? Oh, he likes ugly cars. You know, there's something to be said about ugly cars. It's even though it's like a guy can pull off an ugly car. Let's just face it. If I pulled up tomorrow in a '79 Cadillac with, they have the fenders in the back, those little inserts between the bumper. Those are rotted off. Let's just pretend they're rotted off. The ones in the front are rotted off. Um, so everything's like rot. Everything in this car is rotted off, but it's a Cadillac. It's a '79 Fleetwood Cadillac. It's mint green, except for the parts that are rusted and the red door that somebody painted. I could pull up to any of my buddies' house, and they would walk out and be like, "What's up, man? That is tight." Then we'd all be riding around in this junker Cadillac. However, the wife would not ever. She would not even let me park it in the driveway. Matter of fact, I did get a Cadillac, like a mid '80s Cadillac one time, and she's like, "What is that doing on the lot? That is just devaluing our whole property." I'm like, "What? It's a Cadillac. It's a pimp Cadillac. It's not even a Cadillac. It's the Cadillac." But women are like that. They hate ugly cars. Those guys, man, the uglier the better. That's just what I say. But hey, life is life. Okay, what's your ugly car, man? Auto Buff, what's your favorite ugly car? I gotta hear this. I gotta figure out. He's getting ready to break out a Chevette with a 350 in it or something. I just feel it. Where's your mink coat? Driveway looks like a parking lot. Oh, that's even better. Yeah, no, I'm only allowed to have one car at the house for our video purposes. Outside of that, of course, I've got motorcycles, and I've got a '73 Chevy pickup truck. I've got my truck. I've got so much shit anyway that oh, just dull and dirty. Yeah, I got you. Ain't nothing wrong with that, fellas. Oh God! Oh man! All right, we're gonna give Nathan the. We're gonna give right now. Nathan's in the running for the ugliest car award. Can anybody beat an '88 Renault Alliance? Oh. Hey, wait, a Reliant? You got a Reliant? That's not an ugly car though. Big Cliff, that's a badass little car. I'm digging it. I'm thinking ugly. Let's get back into the world of ugly for a second. All right, I'm okay. All right, y'all ready? I got ugly for you. Plymouth K car. Anybody remember those? You. All right, I'm gonna tell y'all a story about a Yugo. Okay, are y'all ready for this one? I'll tell you a story, and do not hold it against me. It doesn't mean I'm going to hell or anything like that. Eagle Talon wasn't too bad. Um, Hillman Imperial. Okay, okay. So there was this once upon a time across the way from where I worked. There was a big Yugo store. Okay, back when Yugo was Yugo, and anyway, one of the banks that went under that was floor planning it, and it got into this big long mess. And anyway, the dealer I worked for ended up buying like 10 of them. Okay, that's cool. It's all good. No problem. So, anyway, long story short, Gremlin. I love Gremlins. So this guy comes in and he buys one. Well, when I knew something was wrong because, like, when the guy goes out and he opens the door handle fell off. So anyway, we overcome that. We end up getting him into another one. It's all good. So this guy, I mean, we were cheap too, like brand new. Like I think we were like $3,000 or $4,000. This guy like pays cash or had a credit union card, whatever. Like he was out of it. He wasn't financing it with us. So we finally get him, and it's all good, and he's all rolling down the road. Well, about an hour later, here comes this fool. He's in a tow truck, and behind this tow truck is this stupid Yugo. And this dude has the biggest ice pack he ever had on his head. I was like, oh man. And my salesman's like, you better get out there and find out what's going on with him. I was like, damn it. So I run out there. I'm like, hey, sir, what's happening? And you get an accident or something? Man, this dude is every other word is an F bomb. He's like, man, I'm rolling down the interstate doing 65. He said, I turned on the radio. And he said all four brakes locked up. He went straight to the windshield. Moral of the story: there has never been a bigger POS than a Yugo. Oh my god, I can't even think about that day. I still have nightmares. All right, All right, guys. Well, I got to go. Let's see. It's 44 minutes, 45 minutes. And I'm losing my voice because I got a little head cold, which y'all probably hearing. And I got to scream with my kids and everything. You know how that works. Parenting 101. That's exactly right. God, do you remember the Nissans that used to talk back to you? There was some creepy shit going on in the car business. All right, man. Hey, guys, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but if you got anything you want to hit on the screen, just let me know, and I'm all about it. If you guys come up with a good, cool subject or whatever, anyway, y'all take care and try to stay good and all that good stuff, and nothing but peace and love from the RVA, baby. All right, I'm going to hit my end stream now. All right, you too, Big Cliffy. All right, you too, Nathan. See you later, Buff. Who else is on here? Oh, it's always us. All right, peace out, guys. If I can close it. I can't close it. All right, I think I closed it.